by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Oh, we're back here on First Things First, and we're joined by, I just wanted to be demonstrative about being back.
You've been
joined
great
by
today,
FS1 NBA
Sarah
analyst.
Kustok, good to see you, my good friend.
Kustok, it's lovely to see you. Love your dress. It's great to see you.
Wonderful. Mutual Admiration Society.
Compliments.
Kustok, I'm upset with you. The show was going well. You come in and wreck the whole show. Control room's going crazy. My guy on the jib can't get it right. And Jenna,
guy in the jib got it right.
Can't get right.
Despite a 60-win regular season, Sarah Kustok, and probable MVP honors, Giannis Antetokounmpo couldn't get it done as the Bucks fell to Toronto and missed out on a shot at the finals. So where does that leave the core of this Milwaukee team? Well, if it were up to Giannis, he would leave it untouched. Giannis posting to the gram, "We'll be back stronger and better, Milwaukee. Thank you for supporting my teammates and I this entire season. We couldn't have done it without you all." Sarah, how well are the Bucks set up for the future?
There's going to be a lot of decisions for Milwaukee to make this offseason. I like the fact Giannis posted that. That's kind of typical for what players do at the end of the season. I believe Giannis will be back stronger and better than ever. He's only 24 years old. We understand the type of work that he will put in this offseason, but when you look at this roster, handful of decisions to make with a lot of unrestricted free agents. Chris Middleton, a player option for $13 million. He'll likely opt out.
Definitely opt out.
And he is going to command a lot more money. Same with Malcolm Brogdon, who's been an important piece for the core of this team. He's dealt with some injuries, but he will command a lot more money on the market. What are you willing to pay him? Nikola Mirotic, who pretty much was played off the court throughout the course of that Eastern Conference final. Brook Lopez, George Hill. So the compilation of what this team roster looks like could be very different. And Milwaukee is a team that in the past has been averse to going into the luxury tax. So there's going to be questions for the ownership of what they want to do, how much money they're willing to put into a team that fell short of reaching the final. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think there's a lot of moving parts with this group.
All right, I'm going to say 4 names that Sarah didn't say. Wes Edens, Mark Lazary, Jamie Dinan, and Mike Fascitelli. Those are the 4 billionaires that bought this team for $550 million from Herb Cole a few years back. They were worth a combined right around $6.5 billion. You've got the single best asset in the league, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's going to have a decision to make here in a couple years, but really a decision in 1 year. Will he accept the supermax you can offer him, or will he decide to go elsewhere? I say that to say this. You don't buy sports franchises because you're worried about the luxury tax. You buy sports franchises the way you buy a Picasso, because it's dope to have. There are only so many of them in the world, and eventually you'll be able to flip it for more money. You bring back Chris Middleton, you bring back Malcolm Brogdon, you bring back Brook Lopez, and you run it back.
And you hope that he wants to stay.
Well, if you make the finals, he will. And if you continue showing, he has not had any flirtation with other cities. He has shown no inclination to leave. He is a guy who is, we have a lot of NBA stars who are from humble beginnings. Giannis's version of humble beginnings are a little different because of his parents were immigrants from Nigeria to Greece.
Yeah, they're real though.
They're real humble beginnings. And I would be shocked if next year you present a team as good as this year, they are competing for 60 wins in an NBA championship again, and then you offer Giannis $250 million, which is what it would be, and he says no. Now, you give him an escape hatch if you start being cheap. If you say, Chris Middleton, can we sign him? Malcolm Brogdon's a restricted free agent. You can match anything anyone offers him. There's no reason he shouldn't be back. Now, you can't bring back the whole team. If you lose Mirotic, it happens. If George Hill, I think he's got $18 million on his deal, but I think it's player option. If he opts out, I understand that. But those 3 guys are key, and they're key to keeping the only guy on your team that really matters over the next decade, Giannis.
And we have seen throughout the course of the NBA that you could essentially be in any city and build your brand. However, Giannis is a player who has made it clear time and time again, all he cares about is winning and winning a championship. You talk about his family, how close and tight-knit they are. He lost his father while playing in Milwaukee and being in Milwaukee. And throughout the course of that, the first place that he went to, and he was very open in saying this, was the gym. showed up at the practice court, brought his brothers there. His mom is around all the time. This has very much become his home. And for a player like Giannis, if you put the right pieces around him and give him the right situation, that will continue to matter.
Are those the right pieces, CeCe? You say put the right pieces around him. There's nothing else you would do to this team. This team was right there on the cusp and can roll it all back next year?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, for a shot or two, they're in the NBA Finals. So we can't lose perspective on where they've come. We had their general manager sit right here, talk with us about as far as what they planned on doing going into the future. I think Giannis, how he was raised, realizing that his parents were immigrants, so he doesn't have the draw of a kid playing in the United States that ultimately wants to play in Madison Square Garden or wants to play with the Lakers. That's not, he doesn't think like American kids are. And you're right, Milwaukee has become his adopted home. He talked about yesterday in his exit interview, he talked about walking around the city, seeing Milwaukee Bucks banners, seeing Giannis jerseys, seeing how the culture has changed. They have earned the right after winning 60 games, making a huge decision as far as Coach Bud and that front office. They have the system to win. They don't have to change and tinker. Right now we talk about, well, wow, what about LeBron? How can they bring LeBron there and Magic wants to have playmakers? You don't need no playmakers. You need some spot-up shooters. So they have the ownership. They have the management, they have the style and the coach already. They just didn't get there. And we had not seen a team in the last 20 years that was able to skip this learning step and be able to become a champion. Nick thought they might be able to do it because of Giannis. It proved that no, all these steps in the last 20 years in the NBA, 30 years in the NBA, it proves out. You need some experience. You do need a iconic superstar and some other players around them. Also, Milwaukee, realize the league is going to recalibrate next year. There ain't going to be no more Golden State. So all you need is a star and an all-star to be a championship contender.
The league and the Eastern Conference. What happens in Toronto? Does Kawhi end up staying? What does Philadelphia do and what decisions do they make? Boston is up for grabs. So all of these other teams that you were looking at as contenders in the Eastern Conference, a lot can change, and Milwaukee has the opportunity to have their continuity.
I think fair money would be that the Knicks will be demonstrably better. Toronto, if they lose Kawhi, takes an enormous step back. Boston's losing Kyrie. Philly, I would be surprised if they are able to keep Butler and Tobias. So, yeah, Milwaukee is, but Milwaukee's in a great position. Where do they need to get better? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Giannis has to get better. Like, that's what it is for them. Their best player has to now take that next step. But even with Giannis at the level that he was at, to Chris's point, they're a double overtime game away from being up 3-0 and probably being the team in the NBA Finals, which is why you run it back, which is why you pay these guys. I do not believe Giannis will leave Milwaukee because of the glitz and glamour of the coasts. I think he would only leave Milwaukee if he feels like winning is not as important to my bosses, the ownership, as it is to me. And so that's why this summer, Milwaukee has as about as interesting of a summer as any team that isn't in the market to add a big-time player.
It's a good conversation. All right, Sarah, stick around. Coming up, is Steph Curry's legacy on the line in the finals? That's next on First Things First.
We circled it back, CeCe. See
Run
what
it back?
Sarah's things got? We got...
Yeah,